This recycling symbol with the three arrows was developed in the 70s, and it's not required by law to be on plastic products, though it is on many plastic products to encourage consumer recycling. So when you have a plastic that this one is that durable plastic for household containers. This is HDPE, plastic number 2. But even plastics that don't have a recycling symbol, like I know this is plastic, I'm pretty sure. And even though there's no recycling symbol on it, that doesn't mean it's not recyclable. It just means that the company didn't put the plastic recycling symbol on this. First idea is to not use the plastics. So using less plastic by just not buying plastic, reusable water bottles, or even metal water bottles. Using materials is the idea of taking this plastic that you've already used and refilling it. So using your own bags at the grocery store that are already plastic, and so that's one less plastic bag. Recycling, though, is third on the list. So don't just throw it away in the standard garbage, but put it into recycling bin. And then recover is another addition to the recycling process, which is that when these materials aren't recycled, they can actually be burned, because remember, they began as hydrocarbons. So fossil fuels or even corn, these are all hydrocarbons that can undergo combustion reactions and provide energy. So I also like to add refuse. Anytime someone's trying to give me anything that's made out of plastic, no matter what, I say, no, I don't need the cup, I don't need that fork, I don't need that bag.
You're not supposed to recycle plastic bags at home. But why? The bags are made of recyclable materials, but recycling companies don't want them in your blue bin. Seems strange, right? It's due in part to single-stream recycling, which is common in many communities. It works like this. You toss everything into one bin, and it all gets sorted at the recycling center. Special gears separate flat items, like paper and cardboard, from bottles and other containers. Air jets split lightweight bottles and cans away from glass. Electrically charged aluminum cans are repelled into their own stream, while magnets pull out tin cans and other metals. And after a beam of infrared light detects up to 7 types of plastic, a blast of air sends them along individual paths. The end result is huge bales of sorted materials, which are sold to paper mills, metal foundries, and plastic makers. So, what's the problem with plastic bags? The first complication occurs at step 1, the single-stream recycling bin. Here, bags get wet and dirty and become too contaminated to sell. Second, there's no mechanical process for separating plastic bags at recycling facilities. And a recycling industry representative said there's not enough staff or money to clean and dry the dirty bags. Instead, they either get tangled up in sorting equipment or accidentally end up in bales of separated paper. And if just 0.5% of a bale is contaminated by other materials, it can't be sold to reuse companies. In the end, most plastic bags are removed by hand and dropped in the trash, even if recyclables are inside. So, what can you do? Clean and dry plastic bags are still recyclable, but they must be dropped off at specially designated collection spots, like the ones you see at grocery stores. From there, companies buy the bags and recycle them into hard, durable plastics, like patio furniture. If you must choose between a home recycling bin or the trash, the recycling industry suggests throwing plastic bags in the trash. It might feel wrong, but recycling centers say it helps more materials get recycled.
Plastics that we use every day and discard, either throw away or put in recycling, are part of a bigger picture. So this is municipal solid waste shown in this pie chart, and that's MSW for short. This municipal solid waste, MSW, is what's collected by a city or a county that has an official program. In Los Angeles, this is Recyc LA is the program, and if you live in Los Angeles, we have the waste collection is 3 bins. There's the blue bin, the black bin, and the green bin. The blue bin is designated for recyclables, which include everything on the right of this pie chart: paper, glass, metals, and plastic. So for glass, metals, and plastic, these in theory can be melted down and the original material recovered, and these can become new glass, metal, and plastic. For paper, the paper once collected can be pulped and that material reused to make paper. So we have recycled paper, recycled glass, recycled metal, and recycled plastics in theory can be produced after collecting that waste. The black bin in LA County is for non-recyclables like rubber, leather, and textiles. That's like carpet. Or food. Food cannot be recycled. And so this is, though a smaller portion of waste, is a significant portion. There's also the green bin in LA County, which is yard trimmings like grass or any plant material that can include a lot of food. So we'll be talking about the green bin, which is called compost, in the lab that we're going to do about plastics and polymers. So this doesn't include any industrial waste. It also doesn't include any e-waste, which we'll also be talking about in the lab about synthetic polymers. Unfortunately, of all the synthetic plastics, a lot of it does not end up in recycling. A lot of it ends up in landfills. And this is, I think, in part because people don't quite understand that all of those plastics are recyclable, like the styrofoam or the PVC. Another reason is that a lot of plastic currently, and this is very currently, is not being recycled because the countries that typically take recyclables are not taking those recyclables from our country, the U.S., that's producing and using a lot of that plastic. Recycling of municipal solid waste, this has gone up a lot since the 1960s. And so this on the x-axis is we have the years to about a little less than current. And this is the total in millions of tons of recycling, and also the percent on the y-axis. So we can see what happened here is that recycling was pretty sluggish up until the 80s. So what happened here in 1985 is that cities started providing these blue bins. So before 1985, you actually had to collect your recycling and take it to a center. So it was the type of social, environmental, political combination of will that allowed for recycling levels to approach what they are. As far as percent, we have 30% recycling, or total million tons, a lot better than what we had before when consumers were responsible to do it on their own. So it's as easy as just putting things into the blue bin. But you might notice that there's not always a blue bin around. So for instance, if you're on the SMC campus, where do you recycle something if you are in a classroom? There's no recycling bin there. So hopefully you take that item, whatever it is, and take it with you until you can find a recycling bin. The percentage of plastic that's recycled, it differs. So on this slide, this reports 3.5% of plastic in the U.S. is recycled. And there are some plastics that are more heavily recycled. These are the ones that are collected in those blue bins. But there's always confusion about what is recyclable. So this shows that the polypropylene, HDPE, and PET, these are the common bottles. These are water bottles, are PET, and soda bottles. HDPE are our common household containers, and polypropylene are food containers. These have that 30% recycling rate, and this was in 2013. But remember, these are also recyclable. PVC and plastic wrap, that's low-density polyethylene. Then these consumers don't realize are recyclable, so that's way below the 30% recycling rate of the other three. What does get recycled? Well, plastics, even though there's a collection for them, that's in the 30%. So here's PET and HDPE. Interestingly, these lead acid batteries from cars, these have a high recycling rate. Why is that? That's because this is not up to the individual consumers, but when a car battery is replaced, that company that did the replacement is required to recycle that battery. So it takes legislation. These are other collection. This is metal and paper, also tends to get recycled, and this is also metal and aluminum cans. But tires are another example of tires being collected when you get your tire changed, and the company that changed the tire is required to recycle it. So we can see that a lot of these compounds that are placed in recycling bins, like plastic, but also glass and metal, steel and aluminum, and paper, newspapers. These do get recycled. It does have one extra component, which is that the consumers need to use recycled content materials. So this is called cradle-to-cradle recycling, which is that all of these plastics that are recyclable, and here are the recycling symbols and numbers of the big six. These are recyclables that are then recycled and turned into products, and it requires us as consumers to buy the recycled content products. Recycled paper is usually cardboard or paper towels, or even computer paper. It usually costs a little more because of this process of the recycling required, as opposed to just getting the virgin materials. It should be a never-ending loop in which these compounds, all of these plastics, are recycled by consumers, turned into products, and then the consumers buy recycled content products.